Zillow put its market report out for rentals. And, we talk about the housing industry. I mean, obviously you've got some keen insight, being, a big deal at the Z, but, we talk about the housing industry on this show because it makes up such a huge portion, right? Of like personal economics.
I mean, yeah. Right. Like what do you spend most of your money on?
Right. Shelter, food, right. Clean water, air. I mean, they're pretty important things. So, the numbers, came in and you said that you were somewhat caught off guard by these numbers. So what can we sort of walk through kind of like, for example, like the typical rent now is about $2,050 a month net, nationally. Right. That's up about, just under 0.5% at 0.4% and up 3.2% over a year ago. So, what's moving the market? Why is the market moving as it is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think the big surprise in May was the fact that, people tend to move, especially renters, they tend to move in the summer, right? As you get into the summer, you see a big increase in activity. Rent growth tends to accelerate. The share of rental listings with the concessions tends to decrease as the rental market tightens. It's kind of the normal seasonal thing. But, you look at these numbers and in May, you actually had a deceleration in rent growth, right? And I think that's pretty surprising given, of course, given the seasonal patterns that we expect. But at the same time, given the fact that, new construction pulled back significantly and that we were expecting rent growth to kind of firm up a little bit. And so things are changing. I think things are changing because, if you think about it, the housing inventory on the for sale market, housing inventory is up 20% from a year ago. So we have a big increase in housing inventory. And when you have a big increase in housing inventory, it doesn't just affect, it's not just buyers that have more options. Well, prospective first time buyers happen to be renters as well. And so renters also have more options to choose from, and it gives them more bargaining power. And so it helps to explain why rent growth could be cooling, faster than expected this year.
Let me ask you this question. How close to par for the average, rent versus the average starter home
I think that's a great question
on a monthly basis. And
that's a great question. I mean, if you look at the typical home, in the for sale market right now, it's now if you looked at just the monthly payment, right?
Yeah.
The monthly payment is now about $100 higher than the monthly payment on the typical single family rental.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's shocking to most people because it used to be that buying was the easy decision because buying used to be $400 cheaper before the pandemic. It just made sense to be buying. Right. And so that decision is not quite straightforward anymore because it actually costs more to be a buyer in today's environment than it is to be renting.
The obstacle, though, still being the down payment for a lot of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. In markets like San Francisco, you would have to come up for the typical household, right? Median income household.
Yeah,
they'd have to come up with a $875,000 down payment in order just to keep their monthly cost at 30% of their income, right? And so that's just completely out of reach. No wonder home ownership rates are so low on the coast, right? In San Francisco, Northern California, and Pacific Northwest. Whereas in a market like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the typical household with a $7,000 down payment can actually afford the mortgage, right? And so the barrier to entry is much lower in the Midwest, which is why we're seeing a lot more activity, housing market activity in the Midwest. And the Northeast of the United States, and when I say the Northeast, I'm talking about Buffalo, Hartford, Connecticut, not New York, right? New York is still active, but it's very expensive still.
Yeah. The multifamily sector, you wrote about that. This is something that I think you're somewhat passionate about, as like a home hacking. It's like it would be on your home hacking list. Is there any sort of glimmer of hope in that space?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's for younger renters, it's the place to be, because rents there are very, very low, right? Rents in the multifamily sector are, I want to say $400-500 cheaper for renting the typical apartment relative to renting a single family, right? Being in a single family rental.
Right.
And so there's an advantage there. The advantage comes from the fact that the reason prices have been somewhat tame, it was the fact that we had a 50-year high in multifamily construction, right? So you're building a bunch of apartment buildings. All that supply has helped to kind of, tame rent growth in the multifamily space.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate your thoughts as always, Dr. O. I know you got to fly. Appreciate you taking the time to do this from, the lounge at the airport in New Orleans.